And we are back with another episode of Seminoles Sideline 365. Two live shows in a row. You have me this time. You have the old man again. And we're doing something different. It's a live reaction show to a Board of Trustees meeting. I never thought I would say that in the 33 plus years of my life. But I'm sure the old man does a lot of government hearing reaction shows because he's old and, from that space. But here we are because it's important. We thought there may be a vote today about the ACC and the future of the Florida State within it. But from what I've heard, I wasn't able to watch a lot of it because, like many of you, I was working. But the old man did get some key takeaways today that he's going to bring us through. And then we'll discuss kind of what are the implications, what are some of the statements. We got some other sources that had some good clips coming out of it, so we'll review those. So we'll try to catch you up on what you may have missed today. And then we'll discuss what may be the next steps in this journey. So, old man, what? Let's go right into it. Let's not waste a lot of time. People are busy. What was the big? I know you streamed it it was like an hour and a half today. A lot of people were able to get up there and speak. What were the big takeaways for the show today? And if you wouldn't mind, before we get started, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Like the video; it means a lot to us.
Please.
And let's get right into the video. So, What did we miss, old man? What was the big things?
I'll tell you, I had never seen one of these before. The Board of Trustees. This is Board of Trustees for Florida State University. It's not Board of Trustees for all the universities in the state of Florida. I don't think a lot of people. It's like NIL. People don't have any interest in it like this or NIL until it's wins and losses involved. Well, all of these programs, whether it's this one or NIL, they all impact on the success of the university, not only academically, but in sports. But in this case, it was my first event like this. It was impressive, okay? It wasn't super formal, They had a Zoom call. They had a conference room, and they had some people in the conference room, and then they had a Zoom call. With all the other attendees, the members of the board. So first of all, I already tweeted out afterwards, I said that this was very professionally done, okay? It was very professionally handled, and it was very professionally organized. Now let me explain that before I get into what the results were. And most people already, if they have any interest, they know what the results were. But let me say that.
Well, if you want to watch the video, like I said, if you want to watch the recording, you can go directly to the FSU board site, or you can watch the old man's reaction to it. If you watch it live, so that's what I'm showing you guys on the screen. If you guys want to go ahead and watch that,
and there's a lot of other clips out there on YouTube. Just certain clips, or you can watch the whole thing. But you learn a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I learned? One of the important things that I learned was that FSU's going to buy a couple of airplanes for the boosters. Okay? And so I'm going to start watching these more now, especially based on what came out later. First of all, they're going to buy a couple of airplanes for the boosters to help them out, to help other people in the university, including themselves, if they need to get to meetings and so on. And it will become university property. And as one of them who had researched it said, most major educational institutions have their own transportation. So we will have FSU Transportation Airlines. And that doesn't mean that the team will be flying on these. They're not going to be that big because the budget is $9 million. It was so funny. One of the board members said, $9 million? What kind of airplanes do you get for that? He seemed hesitant to want to get on one of those.
I was thinking, what kind of aircraft does $9 million buy you?
Yeah, it might be Spirit or no. I'm just kidding. But
and to stop you, Richard, that was your first, Board of Trustees meeting, watching that as well. Anyone in the chat, if it was your first time, or what stood out to you guys? What surprised you? What stood out to you as we go through this?
So that was kind of funny. That was a chuckler thing. But that's what you learn in these things. They had more information about how they're going to add to the medical school at Florida State and how they're joining with the community. And this is going to help on that AAU issue, that American Association of Universities, I believe that's what it is.
Yeah.
That is very important for Big Ten. It's not a requirement, but it's a nice thing to have on your resume. And and the board members thought it will take at least 5 years for us to really get qualified on that because of the amount of research that is required. I mean, medical type research to be set up.
And on that point,
I'm not here to talk about that.
Can I stop you on that one point?
Yeah.
I learned from one of our subscribers yesterday that the reason Nebraska, the only school of the Big Ten, why they kind of lost their accreditation is just because their facility is not on campus. Like the accreditation for AAU is just
it's not
so weird. Or the certification.
Certification.
It's just so weird about that. But that's the reason they lost theirs, because their medical research facility is not on campus. And that's what they said in the chat. That could be a little bit off, but go on about that. But 5 years.
I think the point is this Board of Trustees handles all types of issues affecting the university, not just sports, but everything, including sports.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to add before I get into the most relevant point of this meeting that came out is I want to say how impressive I was when I read through the resumes of these board members. They're all somehow been affiliated with Florida State for many years, either as graduates, undergraduates, and they've either been appointed by the governor or by the university. It's very, very interesting, but you can go online, read their resumes, very impressive. And a lot of them are in business. They're not, this isn't like their full-time job, okay?
Yeah.
They have full-time jobs, investment firms, lawyer firms, all types of different things.
Well, Peter Collins, the chair of it, is like the co-founder of a capital, like a private equity firm or something.
And the guy, I think it's Family Dollar or the Dollar Store. I can't. I'd have to look it up again. He's I think he's CEO. Okay. And so it was very interesting. So let me get to the main point that came out of the meeting. All right. And then you're going to play the first tape that we have queued up. And that is, I've been in big time meetings. You've been in big time meetings where I know everybody who's going to be in that meeting where decisions are to be made, big ones, have already been contacted. So what I'm saying is all the board members got the memo, they got the email that on item number 4, the public open forum, the president is going to speak, president of the university, McCullough, he's going to speak, and he's going to make the case that things aren't working from what we told you the last time that Michael Alford and Mr. Collins, the chairman, spoke. So the first video we're going to show you leads to the point of what happened in this meeting. So play the first clip, and then I'll carry it from there.
Okay, let me pull up that video.
Cue it up. Okay, while you're doing that, so obviously everybody knew what was coming. So this is the video that we talked about some months back, several months back, when they were talking about the finances of the different conferences.
This is courtesy of Warchant. Yeah, Richard McCullough sounds off in the conference realignment conversation.
And this is a short, so.
That my current
Turn it up.
assessment of the situation after very deep analysis is that I believe that FSU will have to, at some point, consider very seriously leaving the ACC unless there were a radical change to the revenue distribution. I would have to.
So sorry about that. We can't turn up the audio on these shorts. It's just YouTube algorithm.
Okay, well, that's not the one I wanted to show. Okay, I wanted the one with Alford and
Collins.
Here
we go. I got that
Alford and Collins first. Yeah, this is the first one in this step. Because, listen, this has been a strategy of Florida State. This was the first step to lay out this extensive briefing, which a lot of people took advantage to watch, and I did too, about revenue. So play this clip, and I guess we can't get the audio up anymore.
Yeah, sorry about the audio. It's just a YouTube thing. I'm going to mute you real quick, old man, because just to give a sound distribution. Here we go.
End of the day, if something's not done, we cannot be 30 million behind every year compared to our peers.
I think one of the slides that you showed us last time, if you took the conference revenue away and put us in the SEC, our athletic department revenue ranks third.
Third in the SEC and third in the Big Ten.
And third in the Big Ten. That's how well we do aside from the conference payouts. But if you take that and then every year you're losing 30 million or you're 30 million behind to your competitors, you got to do. Now you've got to be better than everybody in the country by a long shot to overcome that.
Yeah.
And that's just, I mean, it's almost impossible.
Yeah. And I'll unmute you now, old man. There you go.
Okay. So the point is, that was the official, the first shot of the cannon. That was the first shot. And that is Collins. He's chairman of the Board of Trustees, or what they call the BOT. B-O-T is the BOT, Board of Trustees. And he was talking with AD Mike Alford at that briefing, and they were briefing the whole board there. They did a great job because they had practiced that pretty much.
Well, we talked about
I'm being honest with you. That's how these things go down.
Well, we talked about this last night when the ACC was talking about the data. We're third in all conference revenue, but we're like the data says we're $30 million behind every year. So like you could say we're third, but when you're $30 million behind in third, it makes a big difference.
You got the point. And I'm not being negative or saying it's under the table to practice your briefings. It's not. That's what this is. They're all on the same team here. Yeah. They're all working together for one common goal, and that is to get out of the ACC. Okay, so given that a few more months or several months go by, what do you think they're doing? Just sitting around planning the football schedule, worrying about who we're going to hire? No, they were using every day with their resources, and I heard them say this on another feed sometimes.
Because that statement was February 25th when that came out. February 25th.
All their resources. And Michael Alford said that, and he said it on War Chant the other night. He said that we were using all of our resources, all of the people in the smarts that we know to figure all this out. That led to the briefing today. Okay, so now you can play the clip from President McCullough, FSU President McCullough.
All right, let me play that clip. All right, I'm going to meet you real quick. All right, here we go.
To say that my current assessment of the situation after very deep analysis is that I believe that FSU will have to, at some point, consider very seriously leaving the ACC unless there were a radical change to the revenue distribution.
And that talks about bring the old man in. That's so we went from February when they talked about that gap, and we get to show them that like the rumblings began to today where we would need radical change in order for something to stay in this conference, and this is now basically 2 weeks before the deadline where they have to put in their paperwork to say we're leaving this conference. Right. And that was today. Right. And that tells you this thing is as good as done, right? How far we've come.
It's beyond that. It's done. Everybody keeps...
Without a vote having taken place in public, it's... Yeah.
I watched the entire thing and we have it on air. I'm telling you, 100% certain. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
This is done because of the steps that led up to that. So
February was the warning shot. Was the warning shot.
During the meeting today, they walked through some other items, including the airplane purchase. And when they came to the open forum part, they brought in the president.
Yep.
This was set up. Everybody knew this was coming, and that's a good thing. This is what you're all on the same team. You're running the same plays.
Yep.
He came in delivered it. He was a little anxious delivering it because he's a professional. All these guys are professionals. And he didn't want to hurt any feelings if he could get by with it. He didn't want to step on too many toes if he could get by with it. But he said, and you saw the language, unless the ACC comes up with a bunch of money, guaranteed money.
Which we talked about. They can't.
And so on. I wish he wouldn't have said that, to be honest. I wish he had just said, I know, he's just trying to be nice.
You always give yourself away.
The money. But
if they do, if you put in your paperwork and they do something, like you want to give yourself somehow.
But they're not. They would have come up with
maybe
something.
the CW network has a lot of money. We don't know. Maybe.
The only thing, I mean, some fans out there have said they think we were just trying to use this leverage to stay in the ACC and get a bunch of money. I'm telling you right now, that's not going to happen, because if we stay in the ACC, I don't care how much money they give us, you're on a sinking ship.
Yeah.
And we'll show you a clip in a few minutes. We'll show you a clip in a few minutes of that being discussed. The ACC is going to be third, fourth ranked conference, over the next few years. And then they may be out of business. And if we're in that boat, we're going to lose. So the bottom line is this. The meeting several months ago was the first shot. This is the final shot. I expect, and I will be disappointed and surprised.
And you'll be called out, and I'll call you out.
I don't care. Call me out. And I'm not afraid to say it. They will put out the official letter of intent to withdraw, intent to depart, whatever you want to call it. They have to put that in official traffic. And I'll tell you right now, as a professional, President McCullough and the AD, Michael Alford, and crew have already told the ACC we're going to do this. They're not going to backdoor them. You don't do that as a professional. You know that. They're not going to backdoor them. They're going to let them know we're going to submit this letter to you by the 15th, unless you come up with something that blows our mind, which is not going to happen.
And we already talked to...
Wait a minute.
Okay, you've done a lot of talking.
I know.
Can I get a word in here?
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. What I'm saying is, if the ACC tries to bait them back with, what did you want? $50 million extra? We'll get 25 or 30 to you. Is that good enough? The Florida State cannot stay in the ACC. They will not be able to compete if they stay in the ACC. This is their shot to go get a seat at the table. Do you know how many teams are out there, which we can talk about later, are scrambling for seats at the party? And do you think these other conferences are going to wait for that? And we're only talking about two, the SEC and the Big Ten. The Big 12 possibly, but those two, the Big Ten and the SEC, we'll talk about that later. They only have so many seats, and there's quality teams out there, especially the Pac-12, that are dissolving. Bottom line is this. You heard what the men say that are running the show. I expect a letter to go out before August the 15th.
It has to. It has to go out, or they're staying in the ACC for 2 years. I mean,
right.
It literally has to.
Well, tell the people that.
Well, if people aren't aware, if they don't submit the official letter to the ACC by the 15th, then they're locked in for an additional 2 years in the agreement.
That's 3 seasons, including this one.
Yeah.
That's three seasons.
So, so it gets a lot messier from there.
And don't you think the party invitations might have dried up by then?
Oh yeah, if they delay this anymore, there's we talked about this yesterday. If you haven't seen our show from yesterday, we talked a little bit more about this. But like I said, Florida State is not the only brand out there that the SEC and Big Ten will take.
No.
There's Notre Dame, even though they have a lucrative deal with NBC, and they expect to get up to $60 million a year when that renews in a couple of years.
You got Oregon, Washington,
Utah. There's a lot of teams that are floating about right now, but Florida State can kind of.
You don't know what Miami's doing.
That's
the
closest that Miami's coming to the SEC right now is the Securities and Exchange Commission right now. That's the SEC they're getting close to. So they should be careful. But let me get back. I think right now Florida State's in a good position where they could pick which invite they want. Do they want to go to the Big Ten? From a lot of the comments, in our chat section, it looks like there's a lot of posturing from like Richard's saying, a lot of posturing from Florida State towards the Big Ten. And like when Noles 99 said, when Collins said traditional thinking, he was like, he's hinting at the Big Ten. And when he puts in the chat, it's maybe a dumb question. If you leave a conference, can you automatically join any conference? Do you have to get an invite? I assume you have to have discussions with other conferences. Correct. You have to have these discussions. That's not just like, I can join whatever.
Well, you have to have a formal invite to the party. You just don't show up and crash the party.
And our assumption is that there's been informal back channel invites. And my assumption, like I said, I don't have inside sources like all these Twitter people do, allegedly. I believe Florida State has back channel conversations and invites from both conferences right now. And it's really Florida State's decision to choose where they want to go if they make it official. And I do think that Big Ten is their choice right now. Let's get to some questions. Richard, question. After the meeting today, Alex began reporting that Big Ten was expanding with 4 schools in the pack. Is this legit or just smoke? My educated guess is that I think it's legit. I believe that they want to go to an even 20. They have 16 set up for 2024 with the addition of USC and UCLA.
He's saying from the Pac-12. He's saying not including us.
Sorry. I read that. You're right.
And I read that too on Twitter, Richard. I read that too.
I don't think why I wouldn't understand, and that may be, Richard, to answer your question, it may be like forcing a little pressure on Florida State to make a damn decision already. Mm-hmm. And I think it may be you float some of that out into the media to say, hey guys, we're not going to wait around for you forever. So you already got UCLA and USC in the mix already done. Oregon and Washington, they're floating out there. Florida State, you need to make a damn decision and commit, or you're out. Like we were saying. So, Richard, I think there is some smoke with that, but I think it's a leverage move by the conference to say, hurry up and make a damn decision. And you are right, Richard. You have to get that formal invite.
Yeah, you have to have a formal invite. I mean, you can't just go out there. You have to have
Team
a formal
switch.
invite. You can't do that. But I think you're right, KB. You can't just sit around and wait. And that's why I say, there's no waffling here. You don't think Alford's an aggressive guy. We have the proper leadership team on board at Florida State right now with the president on down with the board to do this, okay? And he already said he's not concerned about the grant of rights. It's a money issue. They'll take care of it.
$30 million a year, they'll make that up. They'll make double that almost every single year.
You have to go now. I mean, because there's only so many chairs. There's only so many spaces.
Yeah, and Noles 99 said it correct. I think it's to throw them off the scent of that they're already talking to Florida State and Clemson. Noles 99, I totally agree with you. I think it's just kind of a false flag that they throw out there just to throw them off.
Operation.
I totally agree with you.
Because legally, there's certain things they can't do because it would be tampering. You'd be tampering with another conference's teams, and that's not going to fly. That's going to be a problem.
And see, Richard, that's where I think Oregon and Washington, there's definitely smoke there for being two teams. Cal and Stanford, I think those are
why
like
would they want another California team? They
already have USC and UCLA. I don't know why they would take two more. It just would be oversaturation. But once again, that could be a false flag, or it could be like their backup plan. Like if Florida State and Clemson decide they're going to the SEC, great. We already have two. We're one great academic institutions. We expand our footprint in a huge California media market. We're good to go. But that's the backup plan, I believe, for the Big Ten, if anything. But I believe it's throw them off.
And KB, we don't know. Like Richard, we don't know. Now you're talking business here. We don't know what kind of deals they're going to cut for Florida State. Do they bring them in as an equal partner to a team that's been there for 20 years? I don't know. Or do they have to come in as a junior partner? I don't know how that works. So they could be leveraging these teams to see what they'll buy into. And don't you think that these conferences also have deadlines that they're trying to meet as well to meet their conference needs? So the bottom line is this for this board meeting. The bottom line is this. This was the second major shot. We will now focus the target on August the 15th. If Florida State does not take official action, this is my opinion only. If they don't take official action by August the 15th, I believe it is a mistake and it will be disappointing.
Florida State's screwed if that happens. They will fall behind as a program if that.
And
if that
I don't.
happens.
And see, here's why I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to go ahead and do the official letter by the 15th. There's no reason not to. They've already fired 2 big shots.
Yeah.
The ACC would have to give them a boatload of money guaranteed for so long, or that's it.
We already talked about, even if the ACC agrees to like that uneven distribution model where the top schools get more money than like the Wake
It's not
Forest
enough.
and Syracuse's,
Right.
you still wouldn't be able to make up the gap. Even if
No.
you're getting an extra $6 to $10 million a year,
Right.
you're still behind $20 million.
Right.
You're still losing $20 million to Florida and Alabama and those schools.
And
you will
where
not be able
are
to make
you?
up that gap.
Yeah.
You will
And
not be able to
where-
make up that
and
gap.
where are you 5, 6 years, 10 years down the road?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where are you?
You're
stuck.
You're 60.
stuck.
You're $100 million behind.
You're stuck.
That's what happens.
And you're not getting the recruits you might think you should get. You're not competitive. You're not in the playoffs. And then you have a fan base that'll start to erode. That happens.
College football is a national arms race for facilities, for NIL budgets, it's the best facilities, the best NIL collected, and cash is king right now. We all have to admit that.
And you led me right into my next point. One of the Board of Trustees members, a very impressive resume, Max Alvarez, very impressive resume, business guy. Okay, he started and had several businesses, very successful. You know what he said that caught my attention? I wrote it down. He said when it came to his turn, when they were asking all of them, how do you feel about this? You know what he said? This is big business. This isn't the football you used to know.
Yeah.
This is purely big business. And you either got to, and I'm not quoting this part, but he did say big business. You either got to play big or you got to go home.
Yeah.
It's one or the other.
And we don't know how much further NIL is going to evolve and how much more schools are going to be able to get involved with the collectives. So once again, your ability to earn money as a program is probably going to get even more important, right? And it's not even just about sports. The ability to generate revenue through sports programs helps the universities,
This
even
is
whether it's your
academically as
growing
well.
the campus, growing your footprint. We talked about it yesterday. If Florida State joins the Big Ten, which I believe is the better move personally, because you get exposure to the northern markets where I am in DMV area, New York, Michigan, but I want it, but I think you gain exposure to better markets, your footprint grows, but with all that infusion of cash, you can grow the campus, you can grow your facilities, you can grow your academic programs. It's not just about sports. You need that cash to become a bigger and bigger brand and just do the things that you want to do. If you're stuck in the ACC, you're limiting your growth potential, and you can't do that. And I do not believe our AD will allow it to happen. If we had our old AD, I would think maybe we don't make this jump, personally. But Mike Alford, I don't think
I sleep so much better at night knowing who our president is and who our AD is, Mike Alford, and who our chairman of our chairperson of the board there is, Mr. Collins. This is 3 very smart, savvy business people who know what they're doing. And their legacy is going to be tied to the decision they make. And I'll tell you what, I believe personally, I don't have any insider information. And this is the thing I say, with all the Tallahassee, quote, insiders, this thing was kept hush-hush. No one knew anything. It was all speculation of what was going to happen, what wasn't going to happen. I heard one of the insiders say, well, nothing's going to happen. Well, that's not true. Something did happen. Drew Weatherford, a member of the board, he used to be a 3-year starter FSU quarterback who I watched him play a lot of football games.
That was rough.
Drew Weatherford, okay? Drew Weatherford. You know what he said when they went around? You know what he said? This is serious. He said, let's not play games with this. As a player, how he felt, how he was being recruited at the time, and how a bad decision on this will affect recruiting in the
100%.
future.
100%.
And
Nope.
he was right on. He
Yeah.
was right on.
Because, like you said, people want to play in the biggest spot. It's, like you said,
Of course.
NIL, those things play a part in it, but you want to play in the biggest level. And when college football turns into a 2-team super conference, which it is becoming, no one's going to want to play in the Big 12. No one's going to want to play in the Pac-8, what that's becoming. No one's going to want to play in the ACC. They're going to want to play in the SEC
you
or the
wanna
Big
take
10.
a few more of these comments? Let's take a few more of these, and then we're going to show that clip that I want to show.
As Richard said, Colin said towards the end of the meeting today, we should be getting back to you all hopefully sooner rather than later. Really gave us hope. I totally agree, Richard.
That is an accurate statement, Richard.
Yeah.
We'll be getting back to you sooner than later.
Yeah, exactly.
I believe the letter has already been typed, okay, and it's just a formality.
Yeah.
And I do believe that Commissioner of the ACC, Phillips, has been notified.
Yeah.
Listen, as professionals, that's what you do.
Well,
you don't
and
backdoor people.
And these guys are going to jump around. The guys that work in the ACC may jump to a conference and be an
Of
ED
course.
somewhere. You
They
don't
could
want to
be.
break
You
these,
don't
or they may
burn
be on the
bridges.
They may be on the playoff committee one day, and you don't want to piss those guys off because they go onto the playoff selection committee, and you don't want to piss these people off.
So we've acted as professionals. That meeting was very professional. All right, who we got up next? Noles 99.
Chief Osceola coming out into the field in the Big Ten is true, pulling the pass over. Inman Jim Harbaugh was excited to see it. That's what I said. I was like, Florida State playing the Big House, playing in Happy Valley.
Well, let me say
That's
that.
why it's my selection. There's so many big brands that I would love to see Florida State play on the road, much less at home against. I am over the moon if they go to the Big Ten.
Okay, let me say this.
I'm over the moon.
I think the fan base is a little mixed on this now. Not everybody's going to agree what we think.
It's going to be a great debate.
I think either one we win. Okay, either one we win.
Yeah.
The question is, a lot of people think the SEC better for travel, not only for our sports programs, but also for fan bases. That it's better to stay in the South. I'd like to see what our viewers think. Is it better to stay in the SEC? You don't have to write something like, say, SEC or say Big Ten. Let's see what people have to say.
Well, tell us where you're from. Like I said, I'm up in DC, Virginia, Maryland area, so I could go watch the Maryland games again. I miss Maryland being in ACC because I could actually go to games. I could go up to Happy Valley a few hours up, drive up into Pennsylvania.
I can go to any damn game I want.
Well, that's it. So who do you guys pick? Do you guys put in the chat like the old man said? Big Ten, SEC. Who are you picking? Because I would love to see what y'all are leaning towards. Yeah. And as Richard said, Harbaugh can attend the first FSU games of the year. That's true because he's suspended for some little violations here and there. Richard, he might be as well. Michigan's first games are a bore fest. That is actually true. They play one of the worst out of conference schedules. So, he might as well be suspended.
You know what? That's going to get cleaned up some, Noles. That's going to get cleaned up some because now people are playing for these playoff spots.
Oh, once it's expanded.
Don't you think that those committees are going to look at strength of schedule, who are you playing, and so on?
Well, and then once you get into the 16, 20-team conferences, I don't know if there's going to be a real out-of-conference schedule anymore. They're going to have to play through the majority of the conference. I don't know if they're going to have a real out-of-conference anymore.
That now. But I am
playing for middle school. Richard says about that's about we get LSU and they get three.
We get Northern Alabama, so we got to watch what we're saying.
We have Florida and LSU, so we're playing two SECs. They're playing two Division II schools essentially. Right. Peter Collins' interview sounded like a general in preparation for war, but not wanting to give away his position. I would agree with you.
I thought they were all so smooth, well prepared. They didn't give
away their hand though. They
had their board members well prepared. But when you say they didn't give away their position, I think they said we're going to attack. We're going to attack. So I think they did give away. I think it's all a done deal.
Yeah.
That's my impression. It's a done deal. The ACC's been notified, and this was the notice that the letter is coming before the 15th. If I'm wrong, I'll eat it. I think I'm right.
Richard picks Big Ten. He lives in Ann Arbor. That would be perfect.
Oh, cool.
You're right there, class of 1997. So yeah, that'd be perfect. You could just walk down to a game.
Class of 74 here, brother. 74, 73, 0 and 11. And let me tell you.
Here we go.
Talk about revenue. The revenue this is prior to Bobby Bowden. they were thinking of ditching the program. I'm not making that up.
They were
It
still
was
playing
about
leather helmets
money.
when the old
They
man
had
was
no
there.
money. Football, especially in sports, has always been about the money. And as Max Alvarez said, big business. You got to play big or you got to get out. It's one or the other.
Michael picks SEC, lives in Florida. See, it's based on regionality, I think. Like you said, Michael says SEC.
Yeah, it's also, you got to think
Yes.
of your recruits' families. If a lot of your recruits are coming out of the South, can those families travel? But if the kid's getting $100,000, $300,000, he could probably put his parents on a plane and fly them up there from NIL.
Yeah. Richard was in the Marching Chiefs. He would love to see him on the field in the big house. That would be in front of 100,000 people. That would be very, very cool to see.
That's great. Yeah.
To that point, I think that's an interesting point. Does Florida State's move to, say, the Big Ten, affect some of that recruiting state? I thought when we talked about it yesterday that you're already battling for kids in the SEC anyway. You're battling Texas. You're battling Georgia. You're battling Alabama. You're battling in-state Florida. You're already battling all these schools in the SEC for kids anyway. My thought was, if you go to the Big Ten, that would, and you're showing yourself in Michigan, you're showing yourself in Wisconsin. You get some of these big linemen. You go up there, you can make a little recruiting trip, or talk to some of these kids while you're up there. But I think it could extend your recruiting footprint to some of these key areas for some one or two guys that you may want to get. But does it hurt you vice versa? Like you said, if you're not playing in these SEC country states anymore, does it recruit some of that because parents are like, oh, well, I'm not going to travel to Michigan to go see my kid anymore. It's a lot harder to see my kid. So that's an interesting conversation. Does it hurt us with some of those in-state kids or surrounding state kids that I didn't think about before? So that's an interesting topic for later.
That's part of the strategy. But as the leadership team said, I'm just going to call them the leadership team. The guys I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They said there are risk involved. Whatever we do, if we get out, there's some risk. If we go into one conference, there's some risk. Okay, there's a lot of unknowns. Okay. There are known knowns and known unknowns. A very famous person, Donald Rumsfeld, once said that.
Oh God.
Prior to the war in Iraq.
Yeah, well, he's not really known for his decision making.
I'll never forget that. The press he was giving. There are known unknowns and there are unknown knowns.
Right.
It was crazy. But that's pretty much what our leadership team was saying. But they also said this: you have to look at these little lines, right? And the little line was, we have to be prepared to take big risk.
Yep.
You have to.
And I think the biggest risk is probably the Big Ten. And to Rob's point, it doesn't hurt because still 6-8 of your games are in the state of Florida at home. So that's a great point, Rob. You'll still have those built-in home games.
Good point.
And that's a good point. So you'll still be battling for those kids. Those parents can come see. Why do you keep moving it around? I to stop changing the
I'm
comments.
not doing anything. It's your guy you hired, that intern. You got that intern from
the old man likes touching buttons. He gets anxious. So, but I think that's a good point, Rob, that you'll have those built-in home games set, up north in Florida, so people from all those surrounding states to come and visit. So, like you said, I think there's a little bit less risk if you do go to the Big Ten due to that fact. But to my point, you will have more exposure up north in that central time zones and up in Big Ten country. I do think there's a lot of benefit to that because I want some of those big-ass linemen from Wisconsin. I would love, and we have, for Atkins and crew, they have really improved that line, as we all know. But I would love.
I'm not going to get into when Atkins leaves next year after this.
No, okay,
how many of these guys go with him. That'll be another show.
I don't want to discuss if he leaves.
I would just say this, man. It is an exciting time.
It is.
It really is. I mean,
I'm just going to be excited that we don't have to play BC and Louis. Like, I'm excited for all the primetime matches we'll have, regardless of what conference we go to.
This is a big moment. This is a big moment in Florida State history and what happens in the next weeks or months. This is big time. This doesn't happen too much in your lifetime.
They won't move again. They won't move again. If they move to one of these conferences, they won't move again. You won't see another change like this probably in your lifetime.
In my lifetime, Florida State was a major independent, a good portion of it, and then they went to the ACC. That's it. That was it in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Okay? And I'm not a young man. I look like a young man. I look pretty good.
Keep telling yourself that.
The ladies tell me that. I look pretty good. All right? But So if when they make this jump, if they go to the SEC, Big Ten, they're a winner either place, because they've secured their spot. If there's a 2-conference mega system, they're in. The Big 12 is risky, and anything you can't stay here.
Yeah.
This bus is not running.
The wheels are falling off. They're
falling off.
Yeah.
They're falling off.
Super exciting time. Absolutely. Let's see those Big Ten boys play in the future. Joe Campbell. Vice versa.
True.
I would love to see Florida State playing in Happy Valley in the whiteout, snow falling down. But once again, those and people brought it up, like how is Florida State, Clemson, Miami going to play in a stadium in the big house in Happy Valley when it's snowing, But I'm like, those schools, they pick prime players out of Florida right now, and those kids play fine. So I think that's an overreaction. But like you said, the humidity factor for those kids coming from the north to the south may be a big factor, like you said.
You got to schedule them early in September.
But to that point,
September.
Remember when Willie Taggart, he didn't have the kids' condition. So luckily we've got so remember the Virginia Tech game when everyone was cramped. Oh God! But luckily we've got our kids back in shape and we're good. So
hey, here's a key question for everybody listening in tonight. Here's a question: when is the last game? When is the last time? Who was it against? And what year? The Florida State players had to wear the capes. Okay, they had to wear, the heavy capes when they were on the sidelines, that it was that cold. I'd like to see somebody make a guess on that. I'm thinking it might be a game. I can't remember we played that cold up in Michigan.
It must have been BC.
I think it was a BC or a Maryland game.
Yeah, it must have been like a BC game maybe.
Yeah.
Rob says, does Miami want to come with us? Like I said, I don't know.
I don't think we're worried about Miami. We're worried about FSU right now. We're not worried about Clemson. We're not worried,
To answer his question, Rob, does Miami want to come with us? Absolutely. Can they come with us? I don't think so. Yeah. So do they want to tag along? Absolutely. I don't think they're attractive, right? Outside of their potential media market, because I think they have a better media market than, say, Clemson, South Carolina. Absolutely. But outside of that factor, that's all I'll say on it.
I don't think Florida State is trying to organize some 4-team deal or a 2-team deal. I don't really think they're trying to do that. That's a very complex thing to do. I think it would be the inviting conference or TV or somebody to say, listen, if they come, will you come? Yeah. I don't think Florida State's picking up the phone, calling all these guys and making a trade and all this.
The only thing I've heard in the comments of our last video was that potentially Clemson may not want to go to the Big Ten. Potentially they like their alignment with the SEC better. So there could be a split there.
I understand that.
So with that, there may be some, there may be some party of ways where we all think Clemson may be going to the Big Ten, but they may actually prefer going to be in the SEC for particular reasons of recruiting or whatever it may be. So that could play out differently. So interesting to see where all these other teams go.
What I'm happy about after today is the aggressive stance Florida State and its leadership team are taking in this matter. They're not sitting back. They have not, and they made that clear. We have not been sitting back, ever since that meeting several months ago. You think we're just sitting around waiting to see what happens? No, they've been very proactive.
Just to be clear, once they were aware of those revenue numbers, they would have been, I don't know how I should put this best. Once they were made aware of those revenue numbers and the deficit, they should have been proactive about getting out of this conference.
They were.
Exactly.
And they were.
Because they would have been dead in seats if they weren't being proactive about once they knew those numbers.
They're so proactive. That official letter, is already typed up. It's just waiting to go.
Yeah.
Waiting to go.
Richard says, believe it or not, the cold and snow up here really doesn't start until January. There are some rare snows and cold, but it falls in the 40s, maybe upper 30s here. So we may not have to worry about in Michigan the snow. But I've seen, maybe it's Pennsylvania where you see more of those snow games.
I think Noles 99 might have it. Put Noles 99 up there.
Maryland 2008, 2010 Ponderosa
QB. About right. It's either KB said BC or Maryland. I think it could have been either one of those. Yeah.
That would have been was that was that like the game with Burt Reed? Yeah, they got. I'm trying to pull up the game here.
With who?
with Burt Reed, Christian Ponder.
Oh yeah. You got it.
I gotta turn the sound off so we don't get that flag.
I want to see guys on the sideline with the capes, though. This shows me nothing. It just shows me the game. Oh, what a move! Oh,
Burt
yeah,
Reed's
that's
great.
at Maryland. You can tell by their end zone.
They got
obviously.
sleeves on though.
They got. Do the linemen have sleeves? You can't have sleeves. If we're going to the Big Ten, you can't have sleeves, dude. No, most of them don't have sleeves on.
Yeah, no one's got sleeves on there.
Nah, you got to get something on the sidelines. I don't know. It's close between Maryland and BC. Okay, play that. I think we've gone through our comments here pretty good. What is it? I was at that game, he says. Noles, I almost died. That's funny. Hey, I went to a game.
Dude, no, wait, that's it. Maryland fans are nasty. Their fans are nasty.
No, who?
They are,
Maryland?
Maryland fans are nasty.
Well,
We're going to numerous games.
Florida State always brings out the
I'm just saying, Maryland fans they get intense. They get very intense.
Do you think they're worse than Miami or Florida?
I'm just saying,
No,
Maryland fans can get, they get a little nasty sometimes.
I went to a game in Blacksburg, Virginia. It was Florida State playing Virginia Tech on a cold, nasty, sleeting game. Oh my God! That game could not get over soon enough for me. I don't even remember who won. It was so long ago. So yeah, that was crazy. But let me tell you, if we get Big Ten and we catch an October-November game up there, okay, leave this quote up because I've been reading some stuff there. The linemen cannot be in jerseys. Our offensive linemen, they got to have the sleeves rolled up. Look, dude, you got to have the sleeves rolled up, flexing them out, right? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, because the scouts from Green Bay are watching, brother. All right, what did Justin says? Did you read Bruce Feldman's tweet? I did read some of his stuff, Justin, earlier today. It said 4 hours ago, FSU moved to the Big Ten. Okay, I did read that. I'm not gonna act on that. I'm not gonna act on that. I think I looked at this Bruce Feldman. I don't know. I don't see him as credible as
was
I
it like
the
athletic article? Was it an athletic article?
No. It's just a tweet.
Okay.
You know, I can look the guy up. I'll let Justin do that. Justin, look at his credibility. Why do you think he's credible? Okay. I think we should go ahead now and play Feinbaum. Let's play. We're going to play this clip. I hope your sound is better because
it's just Twitter. I can't control what Twitter gives me.
Okay. Well, let's see. Let's see how it plays out. We'll just play a little bit of it.
All right. Let's. All right. Ready?
And I think this is an important message, whether you like Feinbaum or not.
You know what's something though, Paul, that you have talked about this for a while now, and it fascinates me about college football is the idea that as we talk about these conferences and the demise of some of them, that you feel like in the end we're going to end up with just two super conferences, much like the NFL in college football. I mean, how closer are we to this?
It will take a few years, but the two super conferences right now are the Big Ten and the SEC. They look like the NFL right now. They have all these multiplicity of leagues, especially the Big Ten with 3 or 4 different partners. And the Big 12 right now has emerged as number 3. The ACC is the league, Alan, that has some serious soul searching to do right now. But ultimately, we are going to get to this. It will happen quickly because, as Pete has reported 1,000 times, nothing happens quickly in college football.
Pete, you have a pained expression on your face. I need to get your take on this.
Well, I think, Alan, Paul's right in a lot of ways about the Power 2. I think it already is a Power 2 right now. It's just that financially, and it's going to take a little bit of time for the realities of the marketplace to catch up and for those schools to establish themselves, especially from a recruiting standpoint and eventually from an NIL standpoint, as dominant as their finances are right now. Essentially, the Big Ten, the SEC make twice as much as other leagues. And that's why, and we're going to get to the ACC, there's such unhappiness at places like Florida State and Clemson. But we financially are operating on a Power 2 model. Eventually, things are going to follow for the schools in realignment.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay, that's it. That's the ball game. And the shot they took today, the leadership team, the letter's going out, and we're going to be moving on. We got the for sale sign for the house here, and we're going to be shopping elsewhere. And that's just the way it is. No hard feelings. And I go back to Max Alvarez. This is business. This isn't football like you used to know it. This is a different ball game. And one of those guys, Feinbaum or the other guy, said, this is going to be a recruiting issue. This is going to be a recruiting issue.
Well, especially when you think about the schools that are in those power, Rutgers, Illinois, like Northwestern. You are falling behind programs who win 5 to 6 games annually. Vanderbilt
won like 1 or 2 games.
Well, that's the thing. You are in a position where you're falling behind schools $30 million a year that you shouldn't be. And at some point, that will catch up to your ass and bite you.
Well, it's going to catch up close. It's just not going to take years to catch up.
No, that's what I'm saying. That money will catch up to you, and they'll get right. Eventually, somehow, some way, they'll get right. Because with NIL, they'll find a way to start recruiting, get collectives, and it'll bite you in the ass if you stay.
That's right. If you're not realigned by 2025, I believe, if you're not realigned by 2025 and hopefully 2024, the recruits, the 4 and 5 star guys, you won't see them. You will not see them. Okay? They're going to be going to these 2 power conferences. You don't think those recruiters, those 2 conferences are telling kids that now? Or your kids that you have in your system are going to be in the portal heading out the door. Period. Yeah. And guess where your coaches are going to go? You think they're going to stick around? No way. They're going out the door too. And you will be in a second-tier football program.
What I think will be interesting to watch is, do these conferences start ejecting members out the back door?
No.
In like 3 to 4 years, like if Utah is still winning 10 to 12 games a year, do they eject Northwestern at the back door and say, hey, Utah, like, does it get that cut through?
You're saying, could they ask him to take a pay cut?
Oh, take a pay cut or you're out. Does it get that cut through in these conferences where it says, hey, other school over there, you're a good program. Rutgers, you're winning 1 game a year. You suck. Let's get you out of here. Hypothetically. And they swap these schools out. Like, we want to be a true power conference and not have a 1-win team every year.
But if you're playing,
you're going to lose. Yeah, you're going to lose. You're going to lose. There are going to be teams.
If you're playing interconference games,
it's going to be bottom feeders.
Lose in the conference.
Exactly. But
you're not like playing everybody else. You could maybe.
Or there's a relegation. There's a relegation of, they become 2-tier Big Ten. There's a top tier Big Ten, the bottom tier Big Ten. There's relegation like in soccer.
You could. Anything could happen. You could start having these interconference of the 2 big conferences. How much, it's kind of like when the Yankees play the Mets, when they were, one was in the National League, one was in the, and they play each other. I mean, sports is entertainment that must generate enthusiasm. We have that now, and that's where it's going.
Richard says, his question is, if FSU does end up in the Big Ten, does that mean the Big Ten will get a new contract? Or do they split the $7 billion more ways? So, Richard, I believe the way it would work, and once again, could be wrong on this, is that the deal with the Big Ten is that they're locked in for, I believe, the next 4 or 5 years on that contract, and there would be a few more mouths to feed on that existing deal. So the even splits to schools would just be split a little bit more, so each school would get a little bit less, is my understanding. Now, I think that's a little bit advantage for the SEC because I believe their deal is only 2 years for X amount of millions, and they renew with ESPN. Their deal with ESPN renews in 2 years, where they went from CBS to ESPN and they're up in 2 years, where they'll renew that. So the only advantage in my eyes would be if you went with SEC, you may be able to re-up for more money, but as we all know, ESPN is kind of struggling with money right now, so they would have to go probably find a new TV contract. But you would likely get more money. But my understanding, Richard, is that it would just be the same bucket of money. It would just be fewer amount in that distribution for more teams.
Yeah, there's we go back to there's a lot of unknowns right now, and the only thing we do know is what happened today for Florida State. Let's just focus for a minute, just Florida State. We know what happened in Florida State. We know that the second major shot was cast today. This next until August the 15th, which today's the 2nd. You got 13 days. Everybody's gonna monitor to see. I don't think they're gonna wait to the last minute. I think they already know their direction, and this is just a formality. So that'll be the next big thing, is the letter of intent. That's it. That's what we're gonna be monitoring for. You're on Twitter, on other social media, on all these different accounts everybody's on. It's fun. It is kind of fun, but it's mind-boggling. Oh, what about this? What about that? You guys, we can waste a lot of time on that, but the facts are the facts. Florida State has stepped up and said aggressively, we're going out the door.
Noles 99 says, I think people want to be in denial about Florida State leaving the ACC because in their heart of hearts they are afraid of what FSU will do when the playing field evens out. And I believe you're talking about opponents when Florida State moves on. And Noles 99, correct me if I'm wrong here. You mean opponents of Florida State when Florida State goes to the SEC or they go to the Big Ten?
Right.
They're kind of in denial. Like Florida State, they're afraid of once they get more competition than that. Yeah, I believe that may be some of it. And like I said, this may be a foregone conclusion. It's just fun to have a time.
Wait a minute. What makes you think we're going to roll into the league there and just get beat up like a bunch of sissies? I mean, I don't get that impression. You don't think we can beat some of those? We've been beating them. We have a record against the SEC. We have a established record against the Big Ten.
Yeah, we can't be Wake Forest.
We're in there. We're going to get. Wait a minute. We're going to get our share. We're going to get our share of 4 or 5-star guys, without a doubt. So, it comes down to the basics again. If you got the money, you got to get good coaches. You got to get good players. Okay?
You got to compete, and you got to compete at the highest level. I mean, if Florida State makes a move, they have to compete at an even higher level, is my eyes. They cannot be recruiting 3-star guys that they hope to develop. They have to be recruiting at the highest level. Mike Norvell has to continue to grow this program, and hopefully that influx of cash will help them do that. But you have to be a perennial 10-win team, 10-win team every single year. You can't be losing to Wake Forest.
If you have two mega conferences, maybe the third being the Big 12, how many playoff teams did they expand to? 12?
I don't know if that's moving to 12.
That's official.
They're moving to 12.
Okay,
they're moving to 12.
It's 12, and there'll be a number of teams that have 1 or 2 losses sometimes to get into those 12 positions from these conferences. So you could lose a couple of games. It could be close games, and you could get into the playoffs. But if you're in the ACC, you'd have to go undefeated, and you'd have to pack your schedule with all kind of teams just to impress somebody.
Absolutely. Exactly. And that's where it'll be okay, to your point.
This isn't like the big dance in basketball where some small school out there in Iowa gets an invite in, because there's 64 teams.
No, this is the perfect scenario because, to your point, the playoff isn't expanding until 2024-2025 season. So if Florida State does move, they would be moving that same season as the expansion. So it would be a great adjustment period if they do move to the Big Ten SEC, where they could play higher competition and afford themselves the wiggle room to lose a couple of games of better competition. Yes.
Best competition you can find.
Yes.
Period.
Yes. Yeah. So David says Clapton at FSU to SEC. I would love that. I would love to move to.
I think that works too. I'd be happy.
Honestly, I would love that. I would love a move either way. I would prefer the Big Ten, but I wouldn't hate that either. I don't think there's a losing move here. Noles met the media and the opposing fans. Yeah, I do think there is some of that from opposing fans and media.
I don't understand.
He means no. It's not. He's just saying that there is some chatter out on the media sites and Twitter from opposing fans that they're a little bit shutting down the hype that Florida State's going to move because they're a little afraid of Florida State joining their conference and stuff like that. Which I think there may be some of that. I don't know.
If they're afraid, they should be. We want people to be afraid. That's what this team is being built. That's what this program is being built, again, in the image of a Bobby Bowden. Now let's make sure we're clear here.
Yeah.
Some people have said, well, Mike Norvell is the next Bobby Bowden. Well, wait a minute. Okay, Bobby Bowden stands on a pedestal that no one so far since his departure has measured up to.
Well, first of all, he
Jimbo
built the
Fisher
program.
got a championship, fine, but it was on the coattails of Bobby Bowden. Okay, so what we're saying is, if you don't get into one of these mega conferences, you're not going to have the money to get the best coaches. Pure and simple, you'll be a tier 2 team. That's it.
And I don't think anyone should be compared to Bobby Bowden. He built the literal program.
Literally.
There is no Mike Norvell. There is no Jimbo Fisher without
Literally.
him. There is no brand without Bobby Bowden. So to say so-and-so is the next Bobby Bowden, no, there's no comparison. That's like comparing people to Michael Jordan. There's one Michael Jordan. Everyone else is themselves, in my opinion.
There have been 2 ground builders at Florida State in football. Coach Bill Peterson, who put us on the map, okay? And he coached Fred Biletnikoff, if anybody knows who Fred Biletnikoff is, okay? And Steve Tenzi. He put the aerodynamics in Florida State and started putting Florida State on the map. And then Bobby Bowden, okay? Jimbo Fisher is at a level below them, okay? These guys helped establish and put Florida State on the map. Everybody else is kind of below them.
They built the brand so strong that after Jimbo imploded it and then Willie imploded it, they were still able to build it back up. They were still able to get on national television. They are still able, Mike Norvell was able to come in and bring it back together to where it is today. So that is the difference. Mike Norvell may be the next dynasty maker, and I hope he is, because I love the guy. But it's different. He could be the next great coach in a line of great coaches, but it's not Bobby Bowden.
We don't know that. I know Coach Norvell and his staff are busting their butts.
Absolutely.
They're going 24/7.
Absolutely.
You know, not just 5 days a week. Every weekend they're bringing kids in.
They're killing it.
I mean, they understand what it takes, and they're doing it. Okay. And yeah, Mickey Andrews.
Was great. He was great. He was great.
But Coach Norvell and staff, and let's not forget the hidden, invisible front office staff of operations people.
Yeah.
All those people, they're doing a great job. But
Absolutely.
to maintain great people, you have to pay them what they're due, and you have to pay players, because that's where we're at.
And this money will help. This money will help. This money will help you. And just to put a wrapper on this, like you said, that cash will help you retain these top assistant coaches. If you want to keep Alex Atkins, you're going to have to pay the man, because that guy will be gone next year or the next year for a
head coach, or you're going to have to pay
Absolutely.
him.
Or you're going to have to pay him, just like Dabo was doing for years when they were building that program back up to where it is today.
And I'll
you're going to
tell
have
you
to
right
need that
now,
money.
at the end of this season, if it's anywhere successful to the close we think it's going to be, Alex Atkins is likely gone. And you can mark that down. I'm not being negative. I'm being realistic.
No,
some people say, well, you guys are negative. Well, we're not negative.
No, it's not. If he's looking to leave, that means we won 11 games.
He almost left this year.
Because he's a good coach. Because he's a damn good coach.
Yeah, he's a better recruiter.
Yeah.
It's better to have a guy that's a better recruiter than coach.
I would say it's both, because you can recruit great guys, but if they can't damn play on the line, then it doesn't matter. We had Willie Carrot, who was a good recruiter, but he couldn't develop. He couldn't develop.
It's both, but good recruiting is a big deal.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
all right. Well, that's it for the night. We appreciate y'all coming out tonight and discussing this with us. Thanks for the comments. If you don't mind, like the video, share it with a friend.
Please.
But we'll be back. And if there's breaking news on this, if we get an announcement that comes out, we may do a live show. We go hard during the season. We do a pregame show before week 1. We'll do a postgame live reaction. So join us for that. If it's your first time coming by, we appreciate it.
I'll be on the road a little bit, but.
Okay, well, we don't need the old man. But come by when we do the live shows, pre-game, post-game, and do a live reaction. Win or lose, we'll be here and celebrate with us. Or if we lose for some reason, then come break a bottle with us or whatever you do. Stay safe or something.
And as KB said, and we don't do this often enough, and some of our fans say, you guys don't ask for likes enough, you don't ask for subscriptions enough. And we're starting to do that a little bit more. We don't tend to do that, but yeah, any of that helps us. Just helps us.
So thank you all for coming out. We'll see you soon. Have a great, was it today, Wednesday? I lost track of the week already. Wednesday. So have a great Wednesday. Have a great Thursday. And then if we don't see you by the weekend, have a great weekend. Take care. See y'all, guys.
Go Noles.
Ladies, go Noles.